Recently, I was invited to speak at a non-profit event about public relations. During one of the breaks, I got caught up in conversation with Judy. After exchanging pleasantries, we began talking about what really motivates us. She shared with me what had always been her first love, even before high school.
My passion actually started long before high school. My grandmother was a pastry chef, and I was making cakes and bread when I was old enough to push the stool up to the counter.
So what did you become?
I became a baker and cake decorator, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was 100% my passion, yes.
Judy was one of the lucky people who knew at an early age what she wanted to do and was able to do it and make a decent living from it. She made that living for 10 years and was pretty happy.
Professionally, from about 1986 to 96 was professional. Prior to that, I mean, like I said, since I was like 5 years old.
And what happened?
A large company came in and basically took over all of the big box stores by making everything either pre-mixed, pre-made, or frozen. And you no longer needed to have the passion or the baking science to be a good journeyman baker, because anyone could take something out of a box frozen and put it on a pan, so they could bring people in green that had no journeyman knowledge to just bake off at whatever they needed. Unfortunately, these products are exactly what you would expect them to be with pre-mixed, pre-made, and frozen. They were completely flavorless.
Yeah.
And standardized and cardboardy.
This new approach, however flavorless, proved a business success. Journeyman bakers like Judy were pushed out of business. Success wasn't about quality, it was about price and process.
I've always referred to the baking as the second oldest profession. Was something that I thought, well, I would have job security in for the rest of my life. I mean, there was always the saying that you'll always need bread, right? But it basically destroyed the industry.
Judy eventually realized she had to give up her dream career and find something else. She now works in the nonprofit sector, tapping into another part of her personality involving being a humanitarian. And she loves the work she does today, having learned to adapt. But there's still a part of her that misses what it feels she was almost meant to do.
That's always been a bit of a sorrow that's been in my soul. Just not being able to live in my passion, finding other things that I can do well and enjoy, but not being able to live in what I believe is my purpose and my passion has always been a sorrow in my soul.
In the public relations and marketing fields, there's a different pre-mix, pre-made, or frozen solution that's becoming more daunting: artificial intelligence. And while AI is obviously already here, the speed at which new tools are being developed and implemented is remarkable. A new study available through the Chartered Institute of Public Relations examines what's really happening, where our industry might be going. Whatever your current role, it's going to change. And it won't be a piece of cake. My name is Doug Downs. My guest this week is Stephen Waddington, joining us today from the London area of the UK. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Doug. How are you doing? Thanks for having me. Although, many of my friends and colleagues have been interviewed by you. This is my debut.
Excellent. I know Anne Gregory for sure. She's been on twice. Who else that you can think of? Jean Valland, maybe?
Jean Valland. Have you had Jim McNamara on here?
Not yet, but that's a good tip. That's a good tip.
You need him.
So London is big and wide. What part of the London area are you checking in with us today from?
So I'm actually on a houseboat on the river.
On the Thames?
About 10 10 years ago, my wife and I bought a houseboat that we converted, and it became our office and the place where we stay in London when we're working in London. And actually, our family house is about 250 miles north, up in the north of England, a place called Newcastle.
Of course, yes. Make some great brown ale up there in Newcastle. But I'm envious. Houseboat on the Thames, that's fantastic. Stephen, the name of the report is Artificial Intelligence Tools and the Impact on Public Relations Practice. Generally, there's the idea that AI is not new. It's been creeping into our work day by day. But as our friend Anne Gregory puts it, maybe as PR practitioners, we've kind of been sleepwalking a little bit. Do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Doug. So our only awareness of it really has come, I think, in the last 10 years, where it's become an algorithm has become a reputational issue and has maybe destroyed value within an organization. And then it has pricked the consciousness of the public relations practitioner as an area of risk. I think the notion that we would apply it to our own area of practice is something that hasn't really been considered up until very, very recently.
Okay, you examined the data set provided by Chief Martech. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Spot on. Looking
at how many AI tools there currently are for public relations and marketing, you found a lot of them. This is not new.
Yeah, we did. So Scott Brinkler, he's actually a VP at HubSpot now. He's been running this database for 15 years, Chief Martech database. And it's an open source database. Any vendor, anyone, any practitioner working in the marketing, PR, comms, broadly media space can submit tools. And over that time, he's gathered a database of 10,000 tools from around the world. He very kindly opened that up to us and gave us access to it. And one of the things he's done a really good job at tagging and creating a sort of a tautology, an index for it. And so Andrew Smith and myself, in writing this report in the middle of last year, went through this database and looked at the tools that could ostensibly be applied to public relations. And many already are, media databases, monitoring, social media content management, and that sort of thing. And we found 6,000. Now, we dug into those 6,000 and discovered there's probably about 2% of them actually applied any degree of machine learning and AI. And we did that work. We got we were ready to publish that in October. And then GPT happened and GPT Chat was launched. And we pulled it. We pulled the report and followed what's happened over the last 6 months.
So some of these other tools that we would be familiar with, anything like a CRM tool, I guess HubSpot, all of these different tools that we do play with. I use Basecamp.
Yeah.
Tools like this, all examples of the existing.
Yeah, there's sort of two classes. There's tools that have been built within the public relations industry. So, media databases, press release distribution, and so forth. I guess the oldest examples of technology applied to public relations, and then you've got a whole class of monitoring and evaluation tools as well. That is a very well-established market, quite mature market. And then you've got, I guess, what's developed over the last 10 years is this subset outside the market of public relations that we then brought into practice. And this is, relates to everything really, from tools that we might apply to our own workflow like timesheet management and project management, through to more sophisticated monitoring technologies.
Chat GPT 3, I guess. I must have missed Chat GPT 1 and 2. I'm naive. Were there renditions of Chat GPT?
Yeah, there were. What happened with Chat GPT 3 was OpenAI made it available via a command prompt in a web browser, and suddenly anybody with access to the internet, it was one of those moments, anyone with access into the internet could access this tool that hadn't been possible before, and so it was completely open, and you saw this incredible growth. Within a week, 1 million users. By January, 1 billion users, and so it was the accessibility that really made the big difference.
So GPT-3 comes out, and the date is like stamped in PR and marketing lore now, November 30th, 2022.
Yeah.
Really steals all the headlines. Lots more tools existing. I sleepwalked, if that's the right term, through GPT-1 and 2. I honestly did. I had not heard of it. What are these other tools, and why was GPT-3 this turning point for AI, and how is that going to impact PR and marketing?
So unpack that. If we unpack that question, so the first point, why was it a turning point? Because of the simplicity of being able to access and use the tool. Also, OpenAI, the company behind the GPT-3 dataset, made that available publicly via the web and as an API. So the moment that happened, two things happened. You and I were able to go onto the OpenAI website and use Chat GPT-3, and also other tools like Playground that it made available at very low cost. And then also they made the API available, which other vendors were then able to incorporate in their existing tools. So you've got tools that we've been using for a while, like Grammarly, that suddenly have AI functionality brought in because they brought the GPT-3 dataset into that. We had the announcement last week from Microsoft that it's incorporating this GPT-3 API into its Office suite of products. Microsoft's a big investor in OpenAI, so that's the change. There's sort of this first wave, as you said, that date stamped in our mind when GPT-3 initially was launched by OpenAI, but there's been a second wave since then, created by GPT-4,
yes,
which was launched the week before last. So where are we? Early March. It was launched. GPT-3 based on a data set of 17 gigabytes roughly, so that's books, websites, Wikipedia. GPT-4, much larger data set, 45 gigabytes. So there's already been that tripling of the data set, and GPT-5, you won't be surprised, is in development and being trained, and OpenAI says it will be released in the middle of 2024. We talk specifically about, where are these applications going in public relations? There's sort of 4 areas that I've seen. There's open the browser, point it at Chat GPT and use it to create texts and images, and idea generation. It's okay for creating the first draft of something, but frequently makes some mistakes and will hallucinate. Actually, Jean Valin used that word, and I think it's a very good word, that it will start making stuff up, and you've got to be really very careful of that. Second category, I think slightly more useful, is editing and summarization. So if you've got a large chunk of text and you think about, research papers, if you think about you've written a 5,000 word white paper, maybe you can use editing and summarization tools then to cut that down to size, to make a 400 word version, to make a PowerPoint, to make a short report or transcript. You could use it as the basis of a press release. Then you could use things like chatbots, create that into a database itself, which then can be interrogated using a chatbot. That's kind of novel and interesting there, because the original dataset is your own dataset. It's a piece of content that you've created. It's not going to make mistakes. And the other categories that we're only really beginning to explore are, the use for evaluation. There's a lot of interest in the measurement and evaluation community of using Chat GPT to query earned content, any form of content, and ask questions of it, and then finally planning and decision making. So you've got a data set, you use not specifically Chat GPT, but other artificial intelligence tools to spot trends and patterns in that data set that then can help you with planning, decision making. And ultimately, I think, that's potentially the really interesting area, because you've got the opportunity then to, to actually create new knowledge.
Is there, to you, do you think there is a new niche discipline within the practice that's emerging, whereas there are some who have social media expertise? Right now we're seeing experts that have PR and marketing skills that niche to Web 3.0, which is simply attached to blockchain. Is there a niche skill where PR practitioners have, maybe it's a computer science skill, or maybe it's simply experience with the interfaces that will allow us to use these tools?
Absolutely. So I've likened this to, I started my career in public relations in the 90s. I think we're of a similar vintage, right?
Yes.
Without being rude. But there was that great explosion in the 90s where we discovered the internet and email and web, and that created this whole opportunity for people who understood how to, to start to build websites and build communities around the web. And then that happened again in the early part of the 21st century, so 2005 to 2010, when there was that huge explosion around social forms of media, and this new emergent area of practice developed, and called social media. And this is still very important now. Exactly the same, I think, is going to happen here, in that there are already practitioners who are leaning into these tools and exploring them with anger in how they might be used in practice. Mm-hmm. And I think that creates, for those practitioners that are prepared to lean into that same level of opportunity. It's why I'm so excited by this, because I want to future-proof the rest of my career to make sure that I stay relevant and current. Yeah, so the other point related to computer, so interesting, you say computer science there. We were very quick to abstract or assign human character to machines. Actually, it's really important to remember that these are machines, and we're instructing them and programming and coding them. And so, yes, you have seen already this conversation about the skills required to engage the machine as a stakeholder and code it, program it, get the best performance out of it, through the command line prompts. And so, I think New York Times, World Economic Forum have said the job of 2023 is the prompt engineer.
I see a whole slew of email invitations to master classes on how to harness these tools in the future, but
probably sent by AI, machine learning.
That's right.
Hammering
that's right.
you via LinkedIn.
Catch my eye. Yeah. There was a phrase in your report, and I don't think AI could write this. The phrase was, "A word is known by the company it keeps."
Right.
I literally had to put my finger on the page and put the report down for 10 minutes while I wrap my head around that. A word is known by the company it keeps. What does that mean?
So, think about how artificial intelligence works and how machines work. They work by understanding patterns, understanding words. And so, we've talked about the huge volumes of data, 17 gigabytes for Chat GPT 3, 45 gigabytes for GPT-4, huge data sets of books, websites, and Wikipedia that have been crawled. And so, what the machines have done in crawling all that content is understand how one word fits within the context of another word, fits within a phrase, and built up ontologies of words related to topics, subjects, and so forth. And then when you make a query of the the tools. We're using Chat GPT 3 as an example, but of course we are, because it's so accessible. All you are doing is asking it to all it is doing, is providing what it thinks is the most likely output based on the words, phrases that you've used. So very good example. I used very early on testing the veracity and accuracy of these tools, and one great fear is that they can create huge volumes of information, but is it actually accurate? So I asked it to write a biography of myself for a speaking event, and it got the first paragraph absolutely spot on, but no surprise, it almost certainly pulled it from Wikipedia. The second paragraph and the third paragraph, it went off completely. Poor Jean Valland did it, and it wrote his obituary. So they very quickly can go off and get it completely wrong, because they're based on understanding the structure of words within a topic.
Stephen, thank you. It took a while to get you on the podcast, but I really appreciate this, and I'd love to have you back. Thanks for your time today.
Do you know what? We should do this in another 3 months to see where we've got
for
to.
GPT-5. I guess that's a bit further out.
GPT-5 will be the middle of next year, but honestly, the tool project we did with the CIPR was an education in itself, because we thought we delivered a report, and the innovation in the last 6 months has just been incredible.
If you'd like to send a message to my guest, Stephen Waddington, you can email him. The address is in the show notes, and do click on the report. There's a link to that. It is a fascinating, not an overly long read, but absolutely fascinating. Stories and Strategies is a co-production of JGR Communications and Stories and Strategies podcasts. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with one friend. Thanks for listening.